Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Anybody? Okay. Good.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you people are really having lot of patience. Thank you. So as I was telling that it has got two parts. Professor Sandipan Ghosh-Maulik is taking one part, and I will be doing mainly the steam power plant part. And so let me give a very brief introduction. So if we see energy, and then sources of energy are basically fossil fuel, which is coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Out of this, in our country, we have got very less amount of petroleum, natural gas almost nothing, and we have got a good reserve of coal. And then renewable, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, biomass, etc. That is for the entire world. And we are having our share of renewable, particularly solar. Being a tropical country, we have got good amount of solar energy, and we have also potential for good amount of hydropower. Then something which we cannot call fossil fuel or renewable, that is nuclear. So in nuclear, due to nuclear reaction, energy is generated, and you know that the principle of what was stated by Albert Einstein, that mass is converted into energy. So there are two routes, fission and fusion. Fission, by exploiting fission all over the globe for years together, we are generating nuclear power. Fusion has got more potential, but so far it is in research stage. It has not come in the commercial exploitation phase. Once that is done, then our energy crisis, that will, a good solution to our energy crisis will take place. Out of this means up to this, whatever I have told, anybody has got a point to raise? If no, tell yes, I have, or no, I will proceed. Hello.
Hello, welcome to NeoScribe. I'm a huge fan of robotics, and like many people out there, Boston Dynamics is my favorite robotics company by far. They've been posting jaw-dropping videos of their incredible robots for over 11 years, and since then the company has gained a massive following. Every time I watch their videos, I wonder when will we start seeing legged robots implemented in society? And lately, I've been wondering if Boston Dynamics will even be around when the legged robotics industry unfolds. We will get to that in a little bit, but let's first see what's going on with the company. Back in June, Boston Dynamics started selling Spot, their canine-inspired robot. Before that, Spot was available for lease only, and early customers used Spot in various applications and a variety of industries. They've used Spot to document construction progress, monitor remote or hazardous environments such as power generation facilities, decommissioned nuclear sites, factory floors, and research laboratories. So selling Spot is a big step for the company and the adoption of legged robots. The sales for Spot have recently doubled, and Boston Dynamics also started to sell in Canada, the UK, and the EU. But the company needs to work on reducing production costs, in my opinion. As it stands now, the price for Spot is over $74,000. There's no question Boston Dynamics has the ambition to push the boundaries of robotics, but I'm not convinced that they have the competitive fire or the vision on the business side. But it wasn't until I started looking at the competition that I started thinking this, and robot up for sale to the other side of the world, where there's another canine-inspired robot up for sale in China. This is A1, developed by the Chinese company Unitree Robotics. A1's feet have sensors allowing for more efficient movements. It's capable of performing jumps and flips. The battery life is 2.5 hours, and A1 has a top walking speed of 3.3 meters per second. Other features include a smart camera with real-time video transmission and the ability to carry 5 kilograms. Not bad for such a young company. Unitree was founded in 2017 by Xiang Wang. What's interesting is Wang was interviewed a while back, and he said that Boston Dynamics founder Mark Raybert was his idol. His goal is to make legged robots as popular and affordable as smartphones and drones. What I like about that is Wang has a clear and focused objective. Done. A focused path to the robotics seems to me like an R&D lab that is forced to commercialize products so that its parent company can continue to fund its research. And again, don't get me wrong, Boston Dynamics is still my favorite robotics company, but I think they're just not focused on the business side as much as they should. I mean, unless there's a market for parkour robots that I don't know about, this may be a stretch, but they may be at risk of being the Park of legged robots, in my opinion. If you don't know, Park was the R&D subsidiary of Xerox, and they developed the Xerox Alto, the first computer with a graphical user interface, a decade before mass-market machines with GUIs became available. And obviously, as it turned out, Xerox was not a significant player in the PC market. And I think it's possible that Boston Dynamics and SoftBank might have the same fate if they sleep on the competition. This is why, in my opinion, Mark Raybert is a Steve Wozniak piece of the puzzle, and why I think Boston Dynamics is missing a
maybe 10%. We are also nowadays less than 10%, close to 10%. We are exploiting renewable, but we have got good amount of coal reserve. Here, let me tell you one thing. Though we are having good amount of coal reserve, the Indian coal, the quality of Indian coal is not very good. That means ash content of Indian coal is high, and the other attributes are also not very good. So, though we are having good amount of coal reserve, we have to also import coal, particularly high quality coal. So, our indigenous low quality coal and this imported high quality coal, a mixture of both these things is needed for the sustenance of our energy scenario. So why I am telling all these things? To impress upon you that coal-based power generation is important, because coal is available compared to other sources of energy. Coal is available particularly for India. Now, from coal, how can we produce energy? Basically, by this time you have understood that we are producing energy by
Steve Jobs piece.
The very conventional method, that thermal energy is getting converted into mechanical energy or electrical energy. It is the principle of heat engine, that if heat flows from a high temperature source to a low temperature sink, then part of it can be converted into work. So it is this principle we are doing it. Now, how from coal it can be done? Either coal can be burned directly, and it will produce some sort of a high temperature, and with steam as the working substance or working fluid, we can have some sort of a power plant. Or coal can be gasified. If we gasify coal, then the temperature which can be obtained from the coal is higher, and probably the cycle efficiency will also be higher. But at the same time, coal gasification means you have to do some extra effort on coal. Okay. So with this, then we are slowly zeroing down that most of the cases coal will be used for steam power plant, where steam is the working fluid, and coal as such, the way we get coal, the same coal will be burned to produce the thermal energy. So with this, let us go to the basic of a power plant. So basic of a power plant, I have told that it takes heat from a high temperature source. It gives heat to a low temperature sink, and then part of it is getting converted into work. So this is your W net, what we are getting. QH is coming. You can see QH is large. Then a part of it, QL, that is going to the low temperature sink, that is TL. And we are getting QH minus TL, that is equal to W net. And efficiency we can define as W net divided by QH, that is the thermal efficiency of the power plant. Very well-known thing, and we have learned it in our thermodynamics case. We'll just spend a couple of minutes on this issue. So, what is needed for having a conversion of mechanical work or electrical energy from thermal energy? So a high temperature source is needed, a low temperature sink is needed, and a heat engine is needed. In the heat engine, there will be some sort of a working fluid. Now, if we recall our second law of thermodynamics, so second law of thermodynamics, and in the second law of thermodynamics, actually it came from Carnot's postulate, and there we have seen as a preamble of second law of thermodynamics that a Carnot cycle, which is an ideal cycle, will have highest efficiency when we are having a given source of thermal energy and a given sink of thermal energy. For that matter, it need not be Carnot engine or Carnot cycle. Any reversible engine or reversible cycle will have the highest efficiency. For two given temperature, one high temperature and a low temperature. So basically, Carnot has postulated it, and that's why it is so important. So what Carnot has postulated, that a reversible cycle working between two temperature limits will have the highest efficiency. What is a reversible cycle? A reversible cycle will have all the processes reversible, and there are two types of irreversibility, internal irreversibility and external irreversibility. None of these irreversibilities will be there in the cycle. Can anybody tell me what is internal irreversibility? What is external irreversibility? Hello? Anybody?
Internal meaning viscous losses.
Yeah, internal irreversibilities are viscous losses, mixing. Suppose two fluids, one is at low temperature, one is at high temperature. You are mixing these two. So this is one internal irreversibility. And suppose there is some sort of a scope of getting work by expansion, but you are going for free expansion. One side is vacuum and another side is high pressure. So this is also internal irreversibility. Now, can anybody tell me what is external irreversibility?
Heat transfer between finite temperature differences.
Wow, very good. So heat transfer between finite temperature difference, that is your external irreversibility. So when there is some sort of interaction between the system and the surrounding, if there is any irreversibility due to this interaction, so that will be your external irreversibility due to heat transfer across a finite temperature difference. So Carnot cycle will have processes, all are ideal processes, or all will have no internal irreversibility or no external irreversibility. Okay, from there, then we can get an idea that what kind of processes should be there in a Carnot cycle. With this, I will stop. I have wasted much time in figuring out how to connect. Okay, so with this, I will stop. So you see, in a heat engine, there is a heat addition process. And heat addition is from some external agency. Then we have figured out that heat addition from external agency across a finite temperature difference is irreversible. So heat addition process, if it has to be reversible, it has to be an isothermal process. Am I clear? That in Carnot cycle, if there is any heat addition process, that has to be isothermal process. Agreed or not? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So similarly, heat rejection process, that has to be also isothermal process. So in a Carnot cycle, there should be one isothermal heat addition process and one isothermal heat rejection process. But there has to be some work done process, which is generally for a compressible fluid by expansion. So it has to expand from some pressure, some high pressure to low pressure. And during this process, again, if it is going from high pressure to low pressure, probably it is going from a high temperature to a low temperature. During this process, then there should not be any kind of heat transfer because there is a temperature difference. So the expansion has to be adiabatic expansion. And then to close the cycle, we have to have a compression also from low pressure to high pressure. And that has to be again an adiabatic process. So Carnot cycle, then these four processes of Carnot cycle, 2 adiabatic and 2 isothermal, we get to know that why they should be like that. Because Carnot cycle is an ideal process, ideal cycle made of all ideal or reversible processes. So it has to be like this. Okay. Is it clear, or anybody has got any doubt or issue question? I will take up from here in the next class. So is it clear, or anybody has got anything to comment, please? Please, if not, then we will stop here, and because next thing will take some time.
It's clear, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your help and patience. I'm really